on that for whatever reason. Oh, there you go, recording in progress. If you don't want to be seen, or if you want to change your name, please do that now. Okay. Lovely. So I think we're just past 2 o'clock, and for those who've just come into the room, just to note that the session's being recorded and shared via YouTube. So if you don't want to appear on that, please turn off your camera and change your name. I can see the waiting room. We've just got a few more people coming in. Lovely. Okay, I think we're going to make a start. Adept as we are in this digital world. So a very, very warm welcome to this afternoon's event. It's great to see so many people from across Scotland today to mark one of the highlights of SURF's work, the launch of the SURF Awards. My name is Kate Wimpress, and I'm delighted as chair of the organisation to welcome you all and to officially start this event. The SURF Awards have been running since 1998 and provide an opportunity for regeneration projects of all sizes to demonstrate value to funders and to partners, to support team building and to develop a national programme. And of course, you'll be aware, or hopefully you'll be aware, that the SURF Award winners also receive additional showcase opportunities through SURF activities throughout the following year. Now, we are ever hopeful that our awards night will be back this December in Glasgow, but however we meet to celebrate, be it in the Glasgow Central Ballroom with dinner and drinks, or online connecting digitally from our homes across the country, the awards night is just one part of the learning programme. This is to ensure that the incredible work of the award winners and runners-up is known, understood, and replicated where possible, having ably illustrated what works for people and what works for places. So as in previous years, SURF's annual awards process is delivered in partnership with the Scottish Government to recognise and reward best practice and innovation in community regeneration, and their continued investment in this partnership is very welcome. Now, Emma Scott, my colleague in SURF, will be giving you a lot more detail about the process and categories of the awards a little bit later on. But in these changing and challenging times, it is critical to be able to celebrate and reflect on success together. And I'm very pleased that despite everything that the SURF team and the many communities with which we work across Scotland have been dealing with in the last 16 months, we've been able to continue the awards to keep the spotlight on the incredible work happening across Scotland. And my thanks go to everyone who has made this happen. Your remarkable resilience is absolutely noted. And my thanks also go to the Glasgow Canal Co-operative, who are our partners for the 2021 launch. The stretch of canal the co-op calls home has a set of unique assets, including urban heritage, green spaces, active travel routes, artistic talent, and sporting destinations. And these, when paired with the thriving organisations and brilliant people based there, make it an area with a great deal to celebrate. And as you'll know, if you've seen the awards before, many of these things resonate with SURF winners past and present. And so that really makes them the perfect partner with which to launch our awards today. So it's clear the last year has been marked by change, most of it unplanned. However, I am very pleased to be able to buck that trend today and to share some good and planned change to the leadership of SURF by now passing the metaphorical mic to Ewan Leach, our incoming Chief Executive, who took up post with us in May. Ewan.
Thank you very much, Kate. So I am the shiny new Chief Executive at SURF, and while I am new to SURF, SURF is not new to me. I was a judge in 2018 and 2019 on the housing category, and had the privilege of being part of a group of judges that awarded Chapel Park in Forfar an award. And then the following year, it was in Drumnadrochit in the Glenurquhart Care Project. And being a judge for SURF was a total privilege, meeting not just the ones that won, but all the projects that were on the shortlist. And it was great to see communities being at the heart of what were all regenerative processes. So I am new to surf, but also not new to surf. And in my previous job at the Built Environment Forum Scotland, surf and BEFS had a reciprocal membership, and we did quite a lot of work together. And through that, I also got to know Andy. So I'm not stepping into Andy's shoes because they are too good to step into. I'm not a sharper dresser as Andy either. But as many of you will be familiar with Surf, it's a membership network that has over 300 members, with the primary focus of looking at how regeneration can help tackle poverty. And the awards are core to our annual events, not just in the judging process, nor in the actual award ceremony itself, but the learning that arises from afterwards. As Kate's just said, they all, not just the ones that are the pinnacle, the very top, but the ones that are shortlisted are all excellent practice in community regeneration. And after that, we have the pleasure of doing a shared learning process from each of those projects. And obviously we have over the next month or two, over next July, this coming July, we're looking at the learning that we can share the practice of through a series of events that we can no doubt share with you in the message box just now. But that's something that I'm looking forward to being part of, delivering the learning that arises from that. And also as part of our Heritage Alliance, our Alliance for Action network. And also You to Surf is a 20-minute neighbourhood network, which we are delivering this year. 20-minute neighbourhood is catching a lot of attention. We're already having people contacting us about things that they think aren't 20-minute neighbourhoods. And everyone's now looking at how we can turn them into a policy, from policy or into policy, and then further into action. And that's something that Surf wants to be at the core of, and wants to make sure the 20-minute neighbourhoods are making a difference to people that really need the most help, and not maybe the loudest voices in the room that is Scotland. I'm disappointed we're not standing by Canal today, because the Scottish Canals are a superb example of the far reach that regeneration can have. Everything from housing to skills to just a pleasurable walk. I'm lucky enough to live not far from part of the canal in Edinburgh, and for me it's a green/blue area of escape network that I go out to Ratho on with quite frequently. But the canals are often held up as a superb example of regeneration. In fact, this morning there was a discussion on National Planning Framework 4, and that also includes looking at the canal network as a superb piece of infrastructure that has very wide benefits that arrive from the intense regeneration that's happened around the canal. So I'm sorry that we're not standing by canal. Hopefully we will get to stand by outdoor spaces together in the nearish future. But we moved from talking about the canal to thinking about Scotland's themed year. The Scotland's themed year is on coast and waters. The canals are part of the water network. And so now I'm going to hand over to Richard Walsh from the Scottish Government to talk about the themed years programme.
Thank you, Ian. Excellent. First slide, Chris. Now this is where I channel my inner Chris Whitty. Can everybody see that slide? As the slide says, my name is Richard Walsh. I'm from the Tourism and Major Events Division of the Scottish Government. My team deals with the, amongst other things, the themed years. So what I would like to do first of all is to say thank you for inviting me in here today. I'll say, I mean, it is a shame we're not next to a canal as well. Absolutely, a year like no other. But certainly what I'd set out very, very quickly in terms of what the Scottish Government are doing in terms of working with tourism and events sector and other key industries and stakeholders around themed years in general. The current one is Year of Coasts and Waters, and also highlighting opportunities, I think, for surf members to become involved with the next one, which we are planning, which is in 2022, which is Scotland's Year of Stories. So perhaps, Chris, next slide, please. Just to say that I was incredibly impressed by the Surf Journal logo that you had on the website. Nothing is written in stone. So this was from a community installation that we were visiting on holiday last year in August, I think it was, somewhere out near Galway. So there you go. Nothing is written in stone indeed, but you can get some very, very nice pictures on them, I find. Next slide, please, Chris. What are themed years? Sorry, there might be some background noise, which was a Springer Spaniel being cajoled through the house. So it all started back in 2009. What we have in 2009 is we had a themed year, which was a unique concept at the time, and it was one of the largest collaborative tourism and event initiatives that Scotland had ever staged. The 2009 one was rooted in the celebration of Burn's 250th anniversary, and it was also extended to celebrate Scotland's great contributions to the world. It was a huge success. It had over more than 400 events and a major national and international communications campaign. But what 2009 showed us was it gave us an unprecedented opportunity to join together public, private, and crucially third sector organisations in terms of pulling in the same direction to celebrate and promote Scotland, but within the same framework, utilising a common brand and messaging and multiplying our individual efforts to great effect. So you'll see that each one of the subsequent themed years has been very, very different, delivering specific impacts relevant to the chosen theme, depending on what partners feel their particular priorities are and what they can bring to the table. Back in 2016, Visit Scotland, our arm's length body, and ourselves confirmed at the tourism and major event sectors that they valued themed years immensely. They wanted them to continue, but what they were very clear about was that given the size of a lot of the businesses in the sector, they wanted to be able to have greater time for planning. So we moved from 2018 into a 2-year delivery cycle. And particularly moving forward from 2018, which was Year of Young People, we've become increasingly aware of the enthusiasm from other sectors around the themed years and the opportunity to use that as a broad collaborative programme and platform to make maximum use, to accelerate sometimes and certainly amplify ambitions to deliver associated policy ambitions. Next slide, please. At the heart of it, of course, is it says what it does. It's in tourism and major events. Recently, tourism strategy has been updated, working with the industry. We also have a one running in parallel, which deals with major events, which is Scotland, the perfect stage. That will be due to review and a new edition take over in 2025. However, I was struck by what Kate said in the opening address in terms of the fact that essentially people and places are placed at the heart of what the tourism industry is aspiring to do. Again, this is not an SG strategy which has been written and imposed upon the industry. Very, very much the opposite. We have worked very, very closely with them. So we're looking at thriving places, passionate people, memorable experiences for customers, and also encouraging a diversity of businesses. So if we could have the next slide, Chris. What Year of Coast and Waters 20/2021 has been doing? Yeah, it wasn't a great year. It wasn't a great year to try and set out some major events. But what 2021 has set out is that some events we managed to run. Increasingly, as we move out of the various levels in terms of individual local authorities, we are looking at the point that we have been working very, very closely with Event Scotland and the industry itself to try and do things like run events and certainly to continue to market Scotland as being someplace to visit and look at individual destinations to continue to work. Some of the events and programs have been able to continue in terms of, physically distanced. I think it was the Aberdeen Harbour was looking at dolphin festivals in conjunction with RSPB. And what I would do is that we have more and more details of necessarily smaller events coming in. But certainly what we were very much keen to do with Coast and Waters is to see how we could bring in much wider policy ambitions and help focus and highlight the opportunities for other stakeholders to become involved using the Coast and Waters platform. What it is, for example, we continue to have a great deal of work with Water Safety Scotland, Keep Scotland Beautiful, Zero Waste Scotland, Scottish Water, RNLI, for example, because what we're looking at here is we're looking at the fact that it's a huge advertising and marketing campaign to bring awareness. It creates the opportunity for communities as well as individual businesses to come together and think about how they can curate and celebrate what they have to offer in terms of, in this case, for this themed year, coasts and waters. Essentially, Event Scotland are the experts in terms of handling events, and they will engage with the industry, whereas my team, and I would say policy geeks, Obviously, I don't include Ian in that, as Ian is far too suave to be classified as a policy geek. But my team basically handle the internal linkages, making sure that we joined up between portfolios, and that we also handle comms and messaging. So it's a double platform, one to look at sustainable economic development in tourism and major events sector, but the other one, increasingly important, if not as important now, is actually looking at what opportunities we have for collaborative working, as I say, to amplify and accelerate work that's already that's aligned to the particular theme that we choose for the themed year. So just a very brief example of that is here in the next slide. As I say, we were looking at the point that we had 5 objectives for the themed year, which pretty much stay the same for each themed year. We're looking at it being that sustainable economic development opportunity. In this case, the 4 cross-cutting strands we had enabled a pretty wide table of activities to be presented: food and drink, activities and adventure, historic environment, cultural heritage, and also natural environment and wildlife. And I think it's also fair to be say, for example, that in a challenging and changing year, as we've just had, the opportunities in terms of putting out messaging about what communities have been doing was also undertaken. We were still looking at showing that individual communities and individual businesses in some cases were still able to operate. We were looking at participation, collaboration, and also looking at how we can continue to show what Scotland's delivering. So if we look at the next slide, that was what we were all working in. We were saying, in terms of the policy work, we were looking at how we could show a direct linkage between work on the ground, or if you like, even on the foreshore in some cases, how that links to national outcomes and existing ambitions, looking at how we can work with other partners, and perhaps through the medium of collaboration during a themed year, then leave a legacy of cooperation and awareness in its wake, if I can use a nautical term there. Okay, next slide, please. Again, in terms of policy context, what we look at is basically we try to make sure that we choose a theme in terms of a themed year that makes the most of Scotland's assets, so that communities, businesses and enterprise can assetize it and monetize it for sustainable growth, but also in terms of the national outcomes, where can we use a themed year to make the best linkages, in order to make the highlights, in order to show that this is a direct line of sight between a lot of the work that we are doing already in terms of communities, and flagging up that this is actually making a direct contribution to the ambitions that the Scottish Government and Scottish ministers have for Scotland. So all of our work deliberately links back up through a logical policy framework, which is remarkably dull, but nonetheless highly effective in terms of being able to show the relationship between each one of these activities and the national outcome, which can be very, very useful in terms of making a case for further work. So if we could have the next slide. Question is, what next? Well, the big reveal then is, if we could move on to the next slide then. What we are looking at is the next themed year in 2022, Scotland's Year of Stories. With this bit, I will caveat in that there are likely to be 5 strands which underpin Scotland's Year of Stories in 2022, but I still have to get the final strategic plan and strands approved by our new ministers. So confidence remains high. What we are looking at is that basically we're looking at, again, with that collaborative platform, we are looking at the fact that tourism and major events will be based on the assets that Scotland has. And it's not just, would you regard to things like our literary icons and our iconic storytellers? Yes, they will play a part. We will recognise them as well. But we're also looking at the point that there is a vast amount of exciting work going on in terms of literature, in terms of creative industries, in terms of stories, and also in terms of other industries such as film, television, whatever. I mean, it varies. We're looking at the point that already there's a small village down quite close to where I live, that proudly presents itself as twinned with Asgard, because they filmed a scene with Thor, one of the Hemsworth brothers is Thor there, and that I think is a genius piece of marketing. However, we're looking at the point that it's also, what are the new stories of Scotland that can be shared? And this is where Regeneration comes in, I think. What it does come in is the fact that everybody has a story to tell. Themed years work best through creating a momentum of support and networks of shared interest. And that doesn't just deliver an excellent experience for all our visitors, but it leaves that sustainable legacy in communities. So what I'm looking at now is that the themed year in terms of Scotland stories isn't Scotland stories, it's Scotland's year of stories. And that was a deliberate change in emphasis from us. Because what we will be looking at is we will be looking to encourage communities, both geographic communities and also communities of interest within Scotland, to gather together by whatever mechanism it is, whether it's physical, whether it has to be virtual, or whether it has to be a hybrid. And then to think about what stories they have, how they want to curate those stories, and how they want to present them. Now, some of those stories will be capable of being monetized. Some of them will be local legends, some of them will be about local heroes, but also some of them will particularly be about how modern Scotland's communities have come together, how either individuals or groups of individuals within the community have worked together to create Scotland's inclusive values. And there's also the point that we recognise that will sometimes involve addressing quite hard stories. Because we're looking at the point that history isn't all, it isn't all the nice bits of Outlander. It's not all the bits of, Lord help us, Brigadoon. Scotland's story is visceral, which can appeal to some people, but it also shows that it's a mature, inclusive nation that has transformed and has continued to be enriched through inclusive activity. So. I'm sorry I'm not able to give you the precise 5 strands, which might give you a better idea of how you might want to start thinking about hanging particular activities on a particular work. But simply to say that the Scotland's Year of Stories in 2022 will not just look at boots on the ground and heads and pillows. It will be looking at encouraging communities right across Scotland to curate, gather, and celebrate their own stories. Quite how they do that, we don't know, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to be prescriptive. We should be able, there will be a knocking noise here, which is not the Springer Spaniel, but it's me hitting the table. We should be able to provide funding, match funding for events. We're also looking in terms of what we can do for communities. All of that, as I say, I'm afraid is delightfully up in the air, simply until I get approval. So I regret I'm not able to come here and say, this is definitely what we're going to do. But what I would say is that SURF, we would see as being a prime stakeholder in terms of getting the messaging out, in terms of getting that awareness out. So that's what we would be saying. We're looking very much in terms of alignment with the themes in the themed year, in terms of what Kaya said, in terms of people and places, in looking at how communities can come together, or come together even better. That's not a particularly elegant way of phrasing it, but you know what I mean, in order to celebrate and, more importantly, create a legacy that can go forward beyond the end of the 2022 year. We should be getting some work which we have seen sort of piloted over the Scotland's Winter Festivals, which are another one of my responsibilities. We've been working with Fair Saturday Foundation, and we trialed a hybrid platform in terms of work that was done around SEAL, SEALL, Small Holes Initiative, and again, that worked quite well. But again, what we don't want to do is we don't want to be prescriptive or prescriptive. We don't actually want to head off innovation and looking at things in a new light, because very, very much importantly, as well as I say the economic activity, it's encouraging collaboration. It's creating something that then can go forward in terms of a legacy of activity. So next slide, please. Because it's not me, I'll be able to offer you the world about what Visit Scotland will be able to offer. No, that's not fair. What we are looking at is the Visit Scotland, the directorate within them is Event Scotland, but Event Scotland will be able to offer absolute expertise. We will be looking in terms of a partnership programme, which will be a competitive fund which people apply for. Whatever happens, there is also the opportunity that sometimes people aren't successful. There's also the opportunity for partners, which aren't necessarily funded, but it means that you're looking to download as a minimum the logo. You get access to advice and help in terms of marketing. We're also looking at the point that the Visit Scotland website includes an events calendar. Remember when we used to go out and stand in the field and do things? Those days are moving towards. They are moving and they are coming, but that gives access. Visit Scotland gives access to that level of publicity, as we say, extended engagement, free toolkits, and also advice available at any time. And again, we're not just looking at tourism and major events. Enterprises, we are looking to say, this is how communities can get involved. And we have a large group of stakeholders in the steering group, precisely because of that, not just because of the literary links, not just because of the education links, but maybe also because we're thinking about how will we involve communities, often quite challenging conversations. But again, it's like the maturity in terms of having that conversation. Next slide, please. What I would offer for information in comparison is that certainly in terms of thematic years, we've seen other jurisdictions certainly adopt them in terms of what we're looking at, as I say, for the business element. Visit Wales have, I'm delighted to say, looked at thematic years, none of which clash with ours, so it's okay. As I say, Visit Wales, we're looking at Let the Outdoors In, which was a great title. We're also looking at the point that there was a lot of policy work, which was quite interesting, coming out of the National Coastal Tourism Academy, which is on the south coast and only deals with predominantly England, but hey, we'll let it off. What we do have is the National Coastal Tourism Academy is doing an awful lot of good work, and what they are proposing is quite bold. Certainly they're looking at rebuilding the communities in terms of coastal communities, looking at moving on to having a celebration of the Year of the Coast, celebration of the UK coastline in 2023. That sounds quite interesting. We haven't been approached just yet, but it's quite an interesting one. But what we do see is that we see in other jurisdictions, there's been a lot of work in Europe, for example, which was looking at how you would have local communities bring forward their own stories, which is very interesting. And again, not just for the tourism industry, but also looking at a celebration. And in a celebration of activities. Similarly, we've seen work in Ireland from about 2016, which is looking at how they have how they've dealt with different community stories within Ireland, particularly as they're looking from the centenary coming on was from 2016 onwards. And what we've also seen is a very interesting set of community regeneration along the west coast of Ireland, particularly linked to their groundbreaking work on the Wild Atlantic Way. So we see a direct advantage accruing to communities as in terms of sustainable economic activity, which is managed by the destination, which is not allowing the destination to be swamped. It's the destination actually setting the agenda for what they want to market, what they want to manage, and what they want to make a buck from. Again, wholly centered in terms of people and place. Okay, next slide, please. And all I was going to say is that obviously, I apologise, I've ranted on a little bit too longer, but this is my email address. I would be delighted to have any questions addressed to me. I would be delighted to have any further points or clarification, just email to me. And what I would also say is that I think that there is an absolutely very strong alignment between the ambitions that SURF has in terms of your work, in terms of community regeneration, and also the broad collaborative platform that in our case themed years, both what remains of us in 2021 and particularly in terms of 2022 Scotland's Year of Stories will allow to us. Thank you very much, and apologies for overrunning.
Thanks very much. Richard, I can vouch, having been involved in themed years in the past, they're pleasingly broad, the themes, and it allows you to make stuff up that fits into the themes or reinterpret what you have. And as you were talking, you touched on it, my first thought was there are so many untold stories from communities across Scotland, some of which are really challenging, but they are more fascinating than some of the history that we're continually presented with. So I think there's a huge scope as hopefully that comes to fruition next year. But now we're going to pass it over to Chris Breson and Anna Young to talk about actively what's happening on the Glasgow Canal.
Thank you very much, Ewan. Can you hear me okay?
We can indeed.
You can, good. I will just start sharing my screen. And again, if you could just give me a nod, yes, that you can see that.
We can, and yep, it's now full screen.
Great, thanks. Okay, thanks very much for asking us to talk. We'll try and keep an eye on the time because I realise we're maybe running over a wee minute or two. My name's Christopher Breson. I'm Head of Regeneration and Development at Scottish Canals, and as Surf have already explained, we do apologise we can't take you to the canal today, but we'll do our very best in the next 10 minutes or so to give you a wee bit of a virtual tour around the canal. And I'll also extend an invitation to whether Surf want to do this later in the year, a walking tour or something of some of the things that Anna and I will show you. If anybody in Surf would like to pick that up with us a bit later, we'd be very happy to show you around the canal. So I thought one thing that Richard was going to tell us there was that this year was going to be the year of Scotland qualifying for a major football tournament, which we have done, but it's a year of coastal waters, and we're delighted to be supporting that in Scottish Canals in a number of ways this year. But today is about the Glasgow Canal project, and the Glasgow Canal Regeneration Partnership is a partnership between ourselves at Scottish Canals and Glasgow City Council and Igloo Regeneration, and we've been in post now working collaboratively together for over 15 years now to I suppose further the development and regeneration of part of North Glasgow, which has some of the worst social and economic deprivation statistics in Western Europe. That plan in front of you just is a kind of corridor plan that takes you from just north of the city centre, the Sight Hill area, right through Port Dundas, up to the Woodside area, running through Postle Park, and as far as number 1, which is the home of Partick Thistle Football Club. So even along that stretch of the canal, that is the major area where most of the members of the Canal Co-op, which Anna will talk to you about, where they all currently reside. And that's been our main focus of activity in the last 10 years or so. And all the plans that you see on there, whether it's the Sight Hill Regeneration Project, number 12, number 7 is the Dundas Hill Project, which I'll talk about, or number 13, the Hamilton Hill Regeneration Project. These are a kind of interconnected series of projects that we have been jointly working on and trying to join up the pieces and really understand which partner within the canal partnership should be doing what. We've worked with and still do work with a host of partners and most importantly funders. So people like the Green Infrastructure Fund through Nature Scotland and Sustrans are key partners, but Scottish Government as well through Regeneration Capital Grant Fund and that whole host of partners you see there we're working with and have been for a number of years now. The Dundas Hill project, this is at the southern end of the canal stretch that I've just mentioned to you. So this is a strategic regeneration project which will see about 550 new homes developed in the course of the next 5 years or so. The project has been funded so far. Scottish Canals bought the site a number of years ago. It's previously a distillery, and there was various issues with the grounds, with contamination and asbestos and underground tunnels that you used to think, why did a distillery ever need those? But it did. So a lot of work had to be done on that site, and we, along with the council, managed to secure city deal funding, which has allowed us to deliver enabling works and put site infrastructure into that site now. And the platforms, as you can see on there, are ready to take the first new phases of development. And the other thing that's interesting to point out is you'll see the canal is on the left-hand side, on the other side of the main road there. And all the surface water that will fall onto that site or fall onto the green spaces or the roofs of the housing, that will all eventually make its way back into the canal network as part of a project called the Smart Canal. So that NPF4 reference that Ewan made at the beginning is very relevant here. The drainage that falls on this site and the other regeneration sites along the north part of the canal in Glasgow will all drain into the canal network. And the first phase of housing will be taken forward on this site by West of Scotland Housing Association through Passive House Standard. So really breaking the mould, I think, and really pushing the boundary in terms of strategic regeneration. And just on the other side of the basin, there's a massive regeneration project underway at Sight Hill, which is around 800 new homes being built and a new motorway bridge. So if you go across the M8, just north of the city centre, you might see a huge kind of cast iron or metal structures being built either side of the motorway just now. And in the next few months, a bridge will go in there. So that's a really important piece of infrastructure that will reconnect Sight Hill with the city centre, and also the Canal District will have another much better connection to the city centre. And so much of this project has been about that, has been about improving connection to the canal from adjoining communities. Another little project, again, someone mentioned the importance of heritage. I think it was at the start of the presentations. And again, this is a building that was built beside the canal, and Scottish Canals owns it, and we have managed to utilise Regeneration Capital grant funding to turn that into a new base and a new home for a social enterprise, but also for a local community group to get access to have meetings in the upper floor of that building. So we're just about to install an upper floor in the building in the next couple of months, utilising RCGF funding. And so much of what we've done on the canal has been informed by discussions with local people through charrettes, through engagement activities. We pulled together a plan for the Applecross to Firhill stretch of the canal a number of years ago. Local kids told us they wanted to get across the canal and make it easier to get around the area. They designed bridges and told us where they wanted them to go. They asked us to create better green space and better access to the canal. So this new boardwalk wraps its way around the back of Firhill Basin, which is a vacant derelict land site. We've managed to utilise funding from Glasgow City Council's vacant derelict land budget, which again comes from Scottish Government, so thanks there, guys. And this is the Clay Pits project, which was previously where clay was taken out of this land to line the canal. Then it was used as a city farm. Parts of it were tipped on as well, and it was a vacant derelict land site. So we've managed to utilise funding from Scottish Government, from Nature Scotland, from Sustrans and others, and vacant derelict land monies to put a massive project together. And again, that kind of dried up area you can see in the middle of the slide there, that's a huge suds area, which is a natural pond within the nature reserve. And once the housing and on the adjacent land at Hamilton Hill is redeveloped, the water from that area, any water that falls on the site, will make its way into that pond and then make its way back into the canal. And the people on the left-hand side, that's a local community group called the Clay Pits Management Group, and they are helping us look after this nature reserve, and they're recruiting volunteers in the local area. So really it's their space to look after and help manage now. And this is the bridge that we've built. This bridge opens up in the middle to let boat traffic through, and it's exactly the location that those kids gave us the idea to put a new bridge over the canal. And it connects to a new health centre in the background as well. And interestingly, one of the things we found in North Glasgow is working with Caledonian University. They've looked at the health statistics of areas beside the canal in the last 15 to 20 years, and they've come to the conclusion that there's been a small but noticeable improvement on mortality rates with people living beside the canal in North Glasgow. So as a result of all this investment in access to outdoors and regeneration and bridges and connectivity, active travel, health improvements have flowed as a result of that. And this is just a final image to kind of finish on, just showing you, I know you couldn't get to the canal today, but this place is special. It really is something worth visiting. It's just north of the city centre. Look up the Glasgow Canal or look up the Hamilton Hill Clay Pits and go and explore it. And as I say at the start of this talk, we're very happy to give you a proper tour of that area some point this year if SURF or its members wish to follow up with us. And this is the housing area that is going to be redeveloped by Queen's Cross Housing Association. And again, all the surface water from that area will make its way into the Clay Pits Nature Reserve and drain into the canal. And finally, one last thing, another big piece of infrastructure you might see, and I do apologise if your walk is broken by a diversion off the towpath, but this is the new Stockingfield footbridge that we are building with Sustrans investment to connect 3 different communities either side of the canal with a bridge in the middle that allows, again, more connections, more opportunities, and a chance for people to get out and experience the canal and the green space around it. So I will, at that point, hand over to Anna and let Anna talk a bit more about, if we deliver the infrastructure, the Canal Co-op delivers all the life and activity that happens on the canal itself.
Thanks, Chris. You see that okay?
We can indeed.
Thank you. So my name's Anna Young. I'm the project manager for the Glasgow Canal Co-op, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the organisation today and some of the projects that we've been working on. So we were established in 2018, and it really came about because there was a cluster of organisations based around the Forth and Clyde Canal, that kind of near end to the city centre between Port Dundas and Firhill Basin. And as Chris says, it's a very short stretch of canal, but a really important one as well. And the aspiration was that there's a real cluster of organisations that represent culture, sports, heritage and community. And there's a real feeling that we wanted to bring these organisations together to have a voice for that area and what they represent. And with so much change coming in terms of house building and regeneration, it was really important to have that collective voice to make sure that both the community and that cluster were kind of heard throughout this process and their kind of voice wasn't lost. So overall, we're aiming to help support that area to become a space, a vibrant space where you can live, work and visit. And the role of the co-op is to bring all the partners together and work collaboratively and tap into funding opportunities so we can help realise that vision. We have a number of priority areas. Everything we do is about collaboration, and it's about working under communication, placemaking, events and activities. So I'll give you an example of a handful of projects we've been working on recently. For the last few years, we've delivered the Glasgow Canal Festival. We obviously weren't able to deliver that last year, but this year we're focusing on two smaller events that we can sort of manage a bit more easily. The last 2 weekends in September, and the events are all about an opportunity to showcase the amazing cluster of organisations that are there, such as Scottish Opera, National Theatre for Scotland, the Loading Bay Skate Park, Pinxton Water Sports, and give people a reason to come down to the canal to see the sort of green spaces, the new routes that are there and spend time. And it's really a place for celebration. And sort of longer term, we're sort of rethinking about perhaps we used to sort of focus our energies on this kind of larger scale once a year event, but we may change that approach and look at a kind of smaller programme of events. So it's about engaging with the community and having that connection on a regular basis. Another project that we worked on is called Playport, and that's brought together 3 of our leading sports destinations. We've got the Loading Bay Skate Park, Pinxton Water Sports and the Glasgow Wake Park, all based around one street, North Canal Bank Street, which is undergoing a lot of regeneration currently. And individually, those venues offer a real strong kind of sporting offer around BMXing, scooting, wakeboarding, kayaking and so on. But we really wanted to bring them together because there's real strength by getting them to package up their experiences, targeting new leisure audiences. We felt that gave us a great opportunity to reach new, sort of further afield audiences that they hadn't so far. So we've created a new brand website and created a much easier kind of online bookable resource, which we're looking to launch this summer. And I think that will really help position the canal alongside the kind of wider Glasgow City offer. Under active travel, as Chris has already showed you, there's been significant change in terms of the new routes, pathways that are around the canal. So the Canal Co-op is really looking to help get that message out, to let people know about all these opportunities for spending time in terms of using the canal network as an active travel route. Many of the surrounding networks are really busy and congested, so the canal gives you a good opportunity to connect into the city centre much more easily, especially with these new connections across the M8 and underpasses that are happening as well. Around the canal space, there's lots of work taking place, but there's also an opportunity to improve and enhance the vibrancy of the area. So we'll be bringing new posters, vinyl wraps, information boards, just to encourage people to come and spend time there and have additional sort of points of interest. We're also working with one of our members, cycling charity Free Will North, to deliver a programme of guided cycling rides so people can see firsthand what these routes are, what the kind of designated and marked out routes are, so they can build that confidence and they know that they can come back at a later date and use these routes. Under heritage engagement, we knew that there's been loads of projects that focused on the kind of traditional industry of the canal. So we wanted to focus more on the kind of social and cultural changes that the canal's undergone. And from the 1990s, maybe the canal wasn't the sort of obvious choice for most people to go and spend an afternoon, but things have changed so much then since the turn of the century and all the work that's taken place. We're really interested to hear about people's experiences back then. Some of them, the stuff that we've been hearing has been absolutely brilliant. Some of it's unpublishable, and just speaking to people about how they've seen it change and how their relationship and the way they interact with the canal has changed as well. We also knew that there's been loads of events and exhibits and sort of creative cultural projects that have been delivered, many of which you can't see anymore. There's no evidence of them anywhere. So we're really wanting to kind of unearth a lot of these and present them in a digital archive that everyone can access, and it can really inform, for many people, their experience of the canal might have just been the last few years. So kind of setting that context and showing them how it's changed has really been, I feel it's been worthwhile. And finally, communication, about getting that message out, not only around the canal as a green space, as a place for active travel and for events and celebration, but also the amazing depth and wealth of richness of the organisations that are working there. There's so many creative producers and makers, and many of them, if you're actually at the canal, you can't see much evidence of them. It's going on behind closed doors. So we're working hard to try and raise the profile, let people know about this sort of wealth of organisations that are based there. We've got a website that tells you about our organisation and tries to just clarify where our role starts and Scottish Canals stops, and just showcase the sort of richness and opportunity that's based there. So that's how we work. And everything we do, we're looking to complement the sort of work of the larger organisations such as Scottish Canals, Glasgow City Council, and we're looking forward to delivering lots more projects as we go forward. That's me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Anna and Chris. That was great. Anna, it sounds like you've got untold stories that could be part of the Euro storytelling. You say they're unpublishable. Well, I'm sure there's a way of getting them into the public domain. And Chris, the canal, great example of the multi-purposing of the canal and everything around the canal. I have to confess that the smart canal is something that continues to astound me, in that it's a scheduled monument, and very often with heritage, we think, let's make a museum. But here we've done something really, really clever and intelligent with the canal network. So it remains continuously impressive. We're now going to move on to Phil Prentice. We've been looking specifically at place-based regeneration, and we'll hear about it now from Scotland's Towns Partnership. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Ewan. Can you see the screen okay?
We can't see the screen, no.
Nope.
Nope. That's it starting.
Lovely.
You said you'd wing it.
Definitely winging it. But I was fascinated though just to see that piece about the canal. I'm very familiar with it. I actually kayak it often myself, and just to see the transformation up there around North Glasgow, particularly around Possil, Spears Wharf, it's just incredible. You know, what was industrial is now becoming part of the future green-blue infrastructure as part of climate, etc. So it's wonderful. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the official launch of the 2021 Surf Awards. I'm Phil Prentice, Chief Officer of Scotland's Towns Partnership. We've been very close partners with Surf since we established, and I really love the work that Surf do. You know, a combination of showcasing the art of the possible to build pride and confidence across Scotland's communities, but also, just as importantly, an important policy influencer in terms of just raising awareness of what infrastructure investments, economic interventions are potentially working against the wider ambition of trying to regenerate communities. So a real champion for Scotland's communities. In addition to the Towns Partnership, we also look after Scotland's Improvement Districts programme. Again, very place-based in terms of its function. And more recently, we have been driving forward the Scotland Loves Local campaign, both in context of COVID recovery, but also longer term to try and consolidate some of those more positive behaviours that have arisen in local places across the country through the pandemic. So localism, community wealth, more compassion, more awareness, support for vulnerable, etc., and rewarding your local high street by shopping in your local area. So what originally started off as a Towns Award has eventually morphed into a Place Award. And I think that's probably part of the piece today about place-based regeneration. The more holistic approaches that you take in terms of wide collaborative community stakeholders, partnerships, etc., the more chance you've got of success. So I'm going to just focus on last year's winner. So we've got Campbelltown here, a town I'm very familiar with. In fact, I was there last week and I'm going to be going down again at the weekend. Very deserved winner. It's the westernmost town in the UK. And we're going to attempt to use Campbelltown to showcase the approach that we expect to see coming in from this year's applicants. So I'm going to tell a story. I'm a year too early, but I'm just going to do a bit of storytelling. The Kingdom of Dalriada and the birth of Scotland. This is all about, and Kate will go along with this. So let's just tell you a story, because I think regeneration and place-based regeneration is probably more about the people and the story. You know, that's the key fundamental. It's the DNA, it's the culture, it's the heritage. That's what makes the place tick and what brings it down to our DNA. So in June 563, a long, long time ago, even before the country of Scotland existed, a much more advanced civilization sent St. Columba and 12 of his monks across. So St. Columba sailed from Ireland over to Scotland, landed in Campbelltown. That was part of the wilder geography of Dalriada, Antrim and Argyll. And at that point, Scotland was divided in three. You had the Picts in the north. The orange segment is that's the Kingdom of Dalriada, which went from Antrim right across to Argyll. And then in the south of Scotland, you had Strathclyde and the Lothians, which were primarily made up of Bretons and Angles. So when the monk headed north to Dundas, today you'll see the Kilmartin stones. And in fact, even last week, an exciting discovery was made in Kilmartin Glen, the cave drawings, which actually will get all of the archaeological people rethinking the sort of timelines, because the art was very different to what was expected. So that's the old Scotland. Eventually, with the influence of the Irish, the Kingdom of Dalriada's first king united the other three parts of Scotland, and Scotland eventually become a nation known as Alba. Roll forward, what was Campbelltown known for? At one point, it was the whisky capital of the world. There were 30 distilleries in the town, lots of employment. It is one of the four distinct whisky producing regions in Scotland. But unfortunately, the industry dwindled, and presently there are only 3 distilleries. However, importantly, there are 3 new distilleries that are being built. So the town is genuinely on the up. You take a look at the regeneration project. This is the sort of regeneration that's happening in the town itself just now. I think there were 15 vacancies in the town about 5 years ago. There's now a demand for more retail space. So all of these units have been occupied, bringing new business, new energy into the town. Above the shops, the flats have been regenerated and people have moved in. And the key behind all of this has been heritage, it's been housing, it's been community, it's been multiple stakeholders and partners, linking to all the assets they've got, and they've got many assets in that small town. You see the cultural link to the Beatles. Paul McCartney brought his family up on a small farm just outside of Campbelltown. And obviously that's the Linda McCartney Remembrance Garden. So here we have the Art Deco Cinema, which is reopened again, a community cinema, which is just on the waterfront. And again, a fantastic asset, which actually stretches the amount of activity in the town into the evening, which again has encouraged restaurants, etc., to stay open a wee bit longer. The most recent, also we've got a harbour and a marina. We've got an airport. There's a new secondary school. There's a fantastic Equilibrium Leisure Centre, a new medical facility. All of this is combining to make Campbelltown a much better place. And most recently is the addition of the Kintyre 66. So we've heard about the North Coast 500. This is Campbelltown's version, where the Kintyre 66 is really hooking into all of the tourism assets along the Kintyre Peninsula, but starting and finishing itself in the town of Campbelltown. So I would just want you to take a minute to take a look at the place principle. A lot of very positive work has been undertaken by Ian and his team within Scottish Government to ensure that regeneration is seen much more broadly now. And the place principle, that to me is the underpinning direction we all need to go. It's bringing in the people, the resources, that whole sense of identity and purpose to create better, longer lasting outcomes for that community. It's all about wider stakeholder involvement and partnership and determination and being able to take a long-term approach to this, because it doesn't happen overnight. This is about step by step, talking to people, identifying opportunities, making sure we do the right thing. So within Campbelltown, there are a multiplicity of different groups that have helped in that journey. The journey probably started 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago, and it's taken to this point in time, obviously last year, to win that accolade. There's still a lot of work to be done. The town's still fragile. You know, in the resilience index, it is one of the weaker towns in the country. The employment and the economic stuff needs to be strengthened, but with the incoming distilleries and the growth of tourism, etc., you know, there should be some consolidation and growth in the years to come. But that's just a snapshot of the people who have been involved. Likewise, you know, these are the various organizations that have contributed along the way. So I'm going to be short and sweet today because I need to get off to the dentist. But in terms of inspiration, I don't think you need to look any further than Campbelltown. 5 years ago, Campbelltown was struggling to find its identity. But with that push forward, with the community, with the wider stakeholders, the public sector, and the private sector as well, and a determined local authority who were really seeing this as a critical, you know, an anchor town for that wider peninsula, we've seen fantastic progress, fantastic success. So I'm really looking forward to the place-based applications that are going to be coming in this year. And STP, again, look forward to working with SURF throughout the awards as the main sponsor for Scotland's Most Improved Place this year. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, Phil, for your time, and now you can go off to the dentist. I'll just share my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
Can do.
Yes. All right. Hi, I am Emma Scott, and I'm the Events, Information and Communications Manager at SURF. And as part of my role, I manage the delivery of the awards process and the follow-up events. Anyone that knows me knows full well that the SURF Awards are by far the best part of my job. I love meeting projects and hearing about what inspiring work is happening across the country, being able to share a little bit of their journey and to play a small part in their story. 2021 marks the 23rd year of the SURF Awards and the 18th year in partnership with the Scottish Government. The purpose of the awards is to recognise and reward best practice and then share that learning with other projects across Scotland. We give projects a national platform to showcase and tell their story, and hopefully they are able to build on that success and continue to grow and thrive. The awards, though, are about more than just the achievement. As Ewan mentioned, SURF organises a series of shared learning events to bring projects together to discuss success, but also challenges and how they were overcome. The workshops are normally held in May, but this year they've been moved to July, as we had optimistically thought we might have got back into a room together. So if you're interested in hearing more from the 2020 projects, there's a series of 4 thematic online events that are open for bookings, and I put a link in the chat bar earlier. Also, I just want to note that the SURF Awards are independently judged by a group of volunteers from all different areas of regeneration across Scotland. So SURF doesn't actually pick the winners, and Ewan kind of clarified that at the start by saying he was a judge. Each category has its own sponsor, and to them we're really thankful for their ongoing support every year. Skills Development Scotland support the Youth Employability category. As Phil said, Scotland's Towns Partnership, along with Architecture and Design Scotland, are the joint sponsors of the Most Improved Place category. SFHA, the Scottish Federation of Housing Associations, support the Housing and Regeneration category. Creative Scotland are the long-term sponsor of the Creative Regeneration category, and Highlands and Islands Enterprise provide their support to the community-led regeneration category. Here are just some examples of previous shortlisted projects, some focused on infrastructure and regenerating town centres, a lot to do with outdoor activity and young people, community growing in Lewis and North Edinburgh, a roundhouse celebrating the past, and creative use of heritage and buildings in Shawlands and Greenock. I'm now going to show a short film that was made for the 20th anniversary of the awards. so that you can hear what the awards mean to those who have been involved.
For me, it was just a punch in the air moment. You know, we've done it, but we can't rest on our laurels. We need to keep going.
I think that the Surf Awards provide a first-class platform for communities to showcase the efforts that they have made in regenerating their areas. I think it's extremely important that people have the ability to show others exactly what can be achieved and what work is required to make communities the best possible places that they can be.
Well, SURF overall is trying to improve cooperation and success in Regeneration Scotland, and the awards are really helpful with that because regeneration can be quite challenging. So it's really good to focus on the successes and to try and learn from those successes. And we use that learning to then try to improve policy and support for regeneration overall so that everybody benefits from that.
The difference between SURF and other awards, in my view, is that SURF do a lot both in the lead up through the assessment process to the awards, which engages the projects, and secondly through the follow-up work. So it's not just about a one evening get together.
It's also then going out and looking at projects across the country, you know, being inspired by what they are doing. It definitely has an impact in your own organisation, your own views. It's not just about judging them, it's about taking in their experiences, but also then just to promote what other projects are doing across the country.
Winning the SURF Award was just a great honour, and it was a real kind of confidence boost for our team. It was great having our work acknowledged. It's given our work and the Broomhill project like a kind of stamp of quality.
At the time we won the award, we had some new members of staff join the team here at Everyone's Garden project, so we were all thrilled. It really brought us together as a team. We were absolutely delighted. And there was a real party atmosphere in the garden that day.
When it was announced that Lochgelly had won, I got the phone call. They were all crying and cheering and saying, we've won, thank you so much. And it's just great that we've achieved this for the town. And, you know, I was crying as well. We were just so delighted.
I think the most important thing was the women who are very marginalised from the BME community. These women are never given a chance, so it puts us on the map and it's a platform for us as well, and it just really is an achievement. So these women then can actually go make a change in their lives as well, and that's not just making a change in their personal life, it's actually making a change within their family and then making a change in the wider community.
The winning award was just absolutely a fantastic boost. And in terms of the work with both the people there, the community, then that work still goes on within East End of Glasgow. So the legacy has definitely been left there, and we'll see a lot more of the community members and young people coming up through that source.
Winning the SURF Award was quite an achievement at the time. It confirmed the road we were on and the route we were taking in terms of providing employment opportunities for particularly young people at the time into sustainable jobs was a vision that was worth pursuing, and I think it also gave the project quite a bit of credibility in achieving that award, and I think it's something that we've now built on. Without that exposure, I don't think NG2 would have went as quickly from strength to strength. It was a significant point in the time of our growth.
Winning the SURF Award really helped with our further funding applications. It created a lot more interest from the community. People wanted to see what was happening. It also helped to boost people's morale that was coming into the place, taking part in the classes. It also helped some people to volunteer, become more involved in the place.
I think what makes the Surf Awards different is the cross-sectoral representation in it, and also the breadth and depth of the work that happens across the country and is reflected in the awards. I think that's quite unique. And the other thing that makes the awards different is the learning events that happen after the awards. So it's not just a one night. There's a kind of body of evidence of what works in regeneration that's precipitated by the awards.
A lot of work goes into connecting up projects, not just within our sector, but with policymakers and decision makers as well. It sort of profiles the organisation across a variety of networks. You know, connects you into partners and people that you may not have known and people that you wouldn't have worked with before.
It's like a bank of knowledge that's built up over decades and experience and learning, and that all then feeds back in to the work that's being done in community regeneration.
The shared learning events are really crucial for people to drill deeper into what is working, why it's worked, and that also keeps the projects engaged, which I think is unique.
I think what they've also done over that time, the learning that's come out of them, has changed the way that people see regeneration. I think most people used to see regeneration as physical and economic stuff, and I think through the Surf Awards we've been able to show that it's much more.
The awards themselves, the night itself, gives the opportunity for people to come together, to learn and hopefully to improve on what is already going on out there.
It was really good to get that recognition of being a success. But what it also did was it helped to promote Project Search to other parts of Scotland. And at the point that we got the award, we had 8 sites in Scotland. We've now got 13 sites in Scotland. There are 2 more sites due to get started this year. So we think the Surf Award has definitely helped Project Search to be promoted across the rest of Scotland and its success.
The garden is full to capacity at the moment. We don't have any more available space. So this year we're doing a lot of outreach. We're going to other community centres and helping them develop their own community gardens. And we've also taken on additional allotment space. We have big plans for community food hubs and looking into supporting other local projects by supplying produce.
Other developments that have came as other organisations like the New Greenock Health Centre, where we're developing projects and work based in Broomhill, which will go into the new facility in summer 2020. So it's just been a really positive experience.
The community themselves have developed a community action plan, and one of the key projects was to develop the heritage trail and look to ensure that the heritage of the town and the surrounding area comes to life, and the community are leading on that aspect.
It doesn't stop when you receive an award. That process goes on, because what Surf then do is they organise a number of study visits so that people can learn from each other.
For an individual organisation, it gives them a great opportunity and real credibility. So it's a fantastic endorsement. It's great to have.
Thank you, Surf, so much for recognising our work here, and obviously thanking on behalf of our learners who are, you know, really sort of their lives are changed because of this award.
So I think that said a bit more about the Surf Awards than I ever could. And wasn't it nice to see people in a room together again? They were in a room enjoying dinner together. Remember what that was like? So each year we have a new image for the Surf Awards. So we've had axolotls, frogs, ducks, bottles, you name it. This year we have chosen a bear to represent the world coming out of hibernation. Just as bears come out of hibernation, often to a changing environment, our communities are emerging from lockdown with new knowledge, ways of working, and appreciation of what is really important as we move towards building back to a better future. This year there are 5 thematic categories for the Surf Awards, which you can see displayed there, and I will talk through each in a bit more detail. The Supporting Youth Employability Award is presented to a project that supports community regeneration by providing skills and employability support to help young people aged 16 to 29 fulfil their potential. Previous winners include Street League, Working Right, SCLD, NG2, the DRC Youth Project and Kingdom Works, groups using techniques to engage with young people and help them into employment, from sport and outdoor activities to apprenticeships and training. The Scotland's Most Improved Place category identifies and celebrates and shares the positive impacts of participative planning and regeneration processes in Scottish places, with a real focus on joined up thinking and working. Previous winners include Campbelltown, Lochgelly, Kilmarnock, the Glasgow Calton Barras, Barrhead, Westray and Irvine. A diverse group of winners in size, output and geography, all facing varied challenges to meet the community need. Next up is an award for housing and regeneration. This category recognises and promotes the achievements of all housing providers and ensuring that their investments are planned and delivered in a way which provides sustainable, lasting benefit to resident communities and the shared aims of wider regeneration plans. It's about more than just building housing for the sake of building houses. Shortlisted projects in this category have varied widely in size, style and geography, and winners include Ulva Ferry, Glenurquhart Care Project, the first passive house housing in Scotland in Dumfriesshire, and Chapel Park, a converted school in Angus. The Creative Regeneration Award this year will reward best practice in placing artists, arts and creativity at the heart of community regeneration efforts, but also includes highlighting creative organisations and projects which support the ongoing recovery and rebuilding of their communities as we weather the impacts of the ongoing pandemic. Our previous winners include the Glasgow Barons Orchestra Project, Plantation Productions, Findhorn Bay Arts, Rig Arts for their work in Broomhill and Greenock, Whale and Wester Hales and the well-known Stove Network in Dumfries. The final and most popular category for applications is for community-led regeneration. It rewards best practice in a regeneration project which features representatives of a community or place or theme in a leading role. This category certainly sees the most variety in winning projects. These have included Ochiltree Community Hub, Pappy Community Co-op, the Tannahill Centre in Fergusley Park, the Dundee International Women's Centre, and Pennyburn Regeneration and Youth Development Enterprise, otherwise known as Pride. So here's just a quick note on the key dates for the awards this year. Obviously, the main one is the closing date. So the awards open today and they close at 5 p.m. on Monday, the 6th of September. We are hopeful that visits will return to a physical format and that actual judges will go out and carry out site visits this year. But should restrictions remain in place, we will revert to virtual visits. And as Kate mentioned, we do hope to be back in the ballroom on the 9th of December for the presentation dinner. So just a wee bit about the process. The materials will be available on the SURF website later this afternoon, and I will post a link in the chat bar. Criteria and all of the information and dates and process are contained in an information paper, so I strongly recommend taking a look at that before you apply. You then fill out the relevant application form, and then that should be emailed to me by 5 p.m. on the 6th of September. Each individual project can enter one single category, so choose wisely, although organisations can enter multiple projects in different categories. The awards are open to all active regeneration projects and those completed within 2 years of the closing date. And I should also note that the judges will take into account the impacts of the pandemic on delivering certain aspects of your project, which may have ended up delayed or just impossible. So the website address is here, but I'll post it in the chat bar where you'll find all the materials for this year's award. And there's also some links to previous years where you can see previous publications and projects that have been involved. You can email me any questions, or there is some time in the programme if you've got a burning question today. I'm always happy to have a chat through your application and the process if anyone's unsure of anything. So good luck to this year's applicants, and I can't wait to see what projects we have to talk about this time next year. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Emma. That was great, and as Emma said, choose wisely as to what you put your project in for. So having looked at place-based regeneration, some previous good examples or some existing good examples of place-based regeneration, we're now going to pass over to Ian Murray from the Scottish Government to launch the 2021 SURF Awards.
Thanks, folks. Naturally, remember to unmute myself for once, so I'm on a winning streak already today. I'll keep this short and pretty sweet. Thanks first off to Kate and Emma and all at SURF for the invite to speak here at the launch of the 2021 SURF Awards. Ewan, I'm sure you already know, but if you were in any doubt, you are in excellent hands with this. The team really know what they're doing, and they proved it massively so last year under really challenging circumstances. And Emma and the team there made it so much easier for everybody to do as best they could in those really challenging circumstances. Anyway, Scottish Government has a successful and a long-standing partnership with SURF. SURF are a key player in helping shape and champion community-led regeneration right across Scotland. And in this, the 23rd year of the awards, they're a vital advocate for community-led regeneration. And these awards provide an essential platform for recognising and showcasing and sharing, frankly, some of the best examples of successful regeneration right across Scotland. They help recognise the ambition, the creativity, energy, talent, and just downright determination of some of Scotland's communities. They reward the hard work undertaken by people and communities from right across a range of interests and backgrounds and places. And they recognise the difference they make to the communities and the neighbourhoods and the towns and places that are there. The awards showcase and share what's possible and what works, and they shape policy and practice, and really simply just inspire other people to give it a go. And I'm delighted to say that each year the awards gain a deservedly higher profile, and really rightly so, because it's vital that we recognise and reward the hard work of community groups and the challenges they face in realising these ambitions. But just apart from all that, it's just really great to see the delight and the joy on the faces of those that are nominated, even more so if they happen to win. So it's really good stuff and brilliant to be involved in. This will be my 3rd year, and I have to say, for a grizzled old Scottish Government civil servant, these awards they are so uplifting, they are so inspirational, and it's something to behold where you learn something from every community that you get the opportunity to visit, even if it is remotely. It's just fantastic. The winners last year were amazing. The Nith Valley Leaf Trust with their passive house low energy standards, the reinvigorated Tannahill Centre, the Glasgow Barons project showcasing local talent, the Street League activities where they're safeguarding young people and giving them skills and opportunities to step out of poverty. And I'm not going to say anything more about Campbelltown because I feel like this would just be one big long advert for them, but they were deserved winners and it was absolutely awesome. So well done. Chris, could you chuck up the first, you've already got that first slide up, so that's nice and simple. Community-led place-based regeneration, that's really at the heart of Scottish Government's approach. A sustained, coordinated place-based approach across all partners, working with people and communities, not to. And that's needed to address the deeply ingrained economic, environmental and social issues faced by some of Scotland's most disadvantaged, fragile and remote communities. We understand the importance of capitalising on local knowledge, the local skills and local resources to realise opportunities and affect real and lasting change. And if anyone had any doubts about how well placed local communities were, you just have to look at the last year. We witnessed some remarkable resilience, ingenuity, kindness, and just downright determination of local people to act and make a difference to their community. It was an excellent reminder, if it was ever needed, that Scottish Government doesn't have a monopoly on all the good ideas, but we are, frankly, very willing to share and take credit for all of yours. And long may that continue. Thank you. Next slide, please. Thanks. The place principle and our place-based approach are underpinned by the place-based investment programme. It's a 325 million capital programme over the next 5 years to support community-led regeneration and accelerate our ambitions for place, for 20-minute neighbourhoods, town centres and communities. It builds on the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund and the 2 years of the Town Centre funds, and it aims to link and align all place-based funding initiatives to ensure that we have a coherent approach to build resilient communities and promote inclusive growth and well-being. Practically, that means that consideration needs to be given to how place-based investments align with other planned investments in that locality, in that town, in that neighbourhood, in order to streamline delivery and increase the impact, basically to make sure that we get the biggest, most rewarding outcomes for investments and resource inputs. As part of this place-based investment programme, we're going to be continuing with the delivery of the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, which supports local place-based regeneration projects and helps to tackle inequalities and deliver inclusive growth. We also want to build on the vision from the independent review of the Town Centre Action Plan, which was conducted last year and published earlier this year. And we agree with basically the overarching premise in there that our new policies must focus more on our people, our planet and our economy. And we need to work collaboratively with our partners to shape a delivery plan that helps us respond to the recommendations and the propositions within that review and help us achieve that vision that they espoused. The review is also asked to consider our programme for government ambitions around 20-minute neighbourhoods. And for those who don't know, those are where people can meet their needs within a 20-minute walk from the house, enabling people to live better, healthier lives and supporting our net zero ambitions. Hopefully, this means that people are able to live better locally, learning, working, pursuing opportunities to advance their well-being and that of their community in their own neighbourhoods. Phil was speaking earlier about the Scotland Loves Local campaign, so I'll not dwell too much on that. But yeah, we're going to be continuing to support that this coming year. We'll be launching a £10 million Scotland Loves Local programme, delivering a national platform for the Scotland Loves Local loyalty card scheme to encourage local spend, support local businesses and build wealth in the local economy, helping local communities to be more resilient, sustainable and more economically secure, frankly. We're also providing £750,000 seed-cord funding to business improvement districts, and again we'll be working closely with Phil and the rest of the folk at STP to make that happen. As we've already indicated, communities across Scotland, they've been vital throughout this pandemic in actually helping shape and deliver our response, whether that's things like food, prescriptions, heating, just actually providing their neighbours and their friends and people around them with someone to talk to even, and so much more. And it's vital that we continue to support that. Our funding programmes over the last few years have helped build capacity within communities, and many of the organisations that have led these community responses to the pandemic have been or are receiving this support from the Investing in Communities Fund and the previous Empowering Communities programme. And we should be able to communicate more news in the coming weeks on future ICF funding, so Investing in Communities funding, and I know people will be keeping an eager eye out on that. I'm going to skip a few bits because I'm looking at the time and thinking we need to get a wiggle on here. So I will try and pull this to a close. Finally, after much delay, we're almost at the place where I can say we're about to be able to launch our Place website. It's scheduled to launch later this month. It promotes the benefits of place-based approaches, provides information about how to undertake place-based approaches, and it provides a suite of tools, including the next version of the Place Standard. It will host a series of place illustrations to inspire folks to create their own successes, and I'm very grateful to Emma and others at SURF for providing us some illustrations which we're going to be loading up onto that site, and that will necessarily reference some of the previous SURF winners, because frankly they just provide some excellent examples of what community-led regeneration is all about and what difference people in communities can make in their own settings, in their own contexts, off their own bat. And again, we want to inspire more people to do the very things that SURF have been inspiring communities to do through the awards. I'll wrap up now, but basically I hope that kind of demonstrates how we share your commitment to community-led regeneration. And I'd just like to close up. The awards flourish because of all the hard work of everyone at SURF, and the awards panels and in the organisations who continue to support and sponsor them. And like the projects themselves, that's all underpinned by collaborative partnership working, and it's vital to our success. I look forward to learning more about this year's entries. I look forward to being part of a judging team again this year. And most of all, I look forward to actually seeing and understanding the difference that the activities that are undertaken in these communities actually make to the people all over the country. And frankly, I look forward to being inspired all over again. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Ian. On behalf of SURF, we very much welcome your warm words and the continuing support from the Scottish Government. You know, this has been quite an inspiring, a hugely inspiring afternoon, quite humbling to see all the work happening across the country. And really the SURF Awards have got 2 decades of this, the stories that we tell each other, and I think really should be telling wider than Scotland. You know, there's so much going on, so much good work happening across the country, and we need to share that wider as well. And I too am looking forward to the inspiring and exciting entries that come in for the awards. Just listening to all of the guests who've helped us today, Richard, Anna, Chris, Phil and yourself, I'm struck that it's the stories that we tell each other that's so important, but I think key to it is listening to those stories and then acting on them. There are undoubted abundant assets across this fantastic country. We need to utilise them and invest in them wisely. And you can see that the awards are an example of how that collaborative multi-partner approach really works. Now, I have to say, one of the examples shown today, the idea that as a 10-year-old, I would be able to say where I thought a bridge would be, and then it was built. That is going to be absolutely an incredible life story for those children to share. And I think it really just illustrates everything that we're talking about. So I'm not gonna spend any more time now. I'm just gonna thank all the guests for speaking so warmly and so inspiring in such an inspiring fashion about the awards. Again, to thank the SURF team for, as you have rightly said, Ian, putting together the awards in such an incredible way, particularly last year with all the challenges. And I'm going to wrap up by thanking everybody for not making jokes about coastal waters and the surfboard. I think that showed a huge amount of restraint, and I'm very pleased. So for now, thank you. Get the entrance in. Emma has very kindly put the link to the awards onto the chat box, and we look forward to being inspired and hopefully together in one space to celebrate the winners and the runners-up this year in Glasgow in December. Thank you very much.